Let's talk about those events that bring us to that point. And these are what we call special abilities. Special abilities. Natural abilities, we just did. Special abilities come from a significant trial or life experience. When somebody goes through something traumatic and they manage to survive it, people that know them say, you know what, you're different now because of that experience. You've changed because of that experience. Before that experience, you were one way. Now you're totally different. And it does. And those can be positive and they can be negative experiences. But I know lots of people that go through a traumatic experience, and at the end of that experience, once they get through it, they are stronger because of it. They're stronger. They do things. That person that put together that group, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. What do you suppose that life-altering experience was for her? Her child was killed by a drunk driver. Traumatic experience. But rather than allow that to ground her, she took that experience and translated it into something remarkable. Everybody in this room has experienced something that has been traumatic, maybe life-altering. Some of you have done things to overcome it. Some of you may be struggling with it right now. But if you choose not to leverage that, the experience has been wasted. Anybody ever break an arm or a leg in here? Yeah. It hurt, didn't it? The place where that break has happened, though, is now stronger than it was before, because all those little fibers now have grown together and now it's strong. If you break that limb again, it won't break in the same place. It'll break somewhere else. So what doesn't break you down, leveraged correctly, will actually become one of your strengths. To help us with that, there's a tool, and it's in your handbook here, and I believe it's on, well, I don't have numbered pages here, but it says special abilities right after the list of natural abilities. It's that little mind map looking thing, that little bunch of circles all glued together. And I'm not going to have you take a lot of time in class to do this, because I truly believe something like this you need to kind of reflect on a little bit, you need to think about it. But the way it works in this tool is that you begin to think about the experience and what happened as a result of that experience. So in the example here in your book, the circle thing was got through a nasty divorce. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever had to go through that before, but you might know people that do, and that's an ugly thing, isn't it? Things change because of it. But see, as you're thinking about your experience, and that's just an example in there, you start to think of what happened as a result of that, and that's the next row of circles. So because of that nasty divorce, maybe you made some new friends. Because if you ever known people that have been through a divorce, the friends have to be split up too, right? So somebody just said, I'm going to go make some new friends. And so I made some new friends. And because I did that, I learned things about networking. And maybe I joined a new professional association because I broadened my scope of who I used to hang out with. What was a negative thing had a positive outcome. Because of that nasty divorce, I became more comfortable with networking. And then maybe now I'm able to leverage friendships. I bond closer with my friends. I've reconnected with family members that I didn't think that I needed anymore because of that traumatic experience. And then the next row is perseverance. Because of what I had to go through, I feel like I can conquer anything. I've been through that. I know I could handle much worse than that. And because I have that new confidence now, I'm not afraid to try new things. I found inner strength. And I found that now, and I'm doing things like leading support groups for people that have gone through this traumatic experience. Or now I'm taking yoga classes because I've learned how to relax and enjoy myself. Maybe it's spirituality. I'm now journaling. I'm meditating now. If we were to take out the center circle going through a nasty divorce, what would you say about this person's life now? It's a great life. My gosh, self-aware, confident, doing great things. And that's exactly what traumatic experiences do for us if we choose not to fall victim to them. It can make a huge difference. So again, I'm not going to make you sit here and reflect over this, because some of this you can't do in a 10-minute period when there's cameras rolling, I'm up here talking and everybody's doing their thing. This is something that I would encourage you to take away for some homework. But let me just kind of give you an example of how it works. I was really, I guess at the age of 32, not really sure what I wanted to do with my life. And at the time I was in the military, I was in the Navy, I was working in Silverdale, Washington. and I was at a submarine base up there. And I had one of the most evil bosses in the entire world that I worked for. I was his clinic supervisor. I was a dental assistant when I was in, and he was a dentist. And he looked a little bit like the Burger King from the commercials that you see here with the big head. And if you've ever seen the movie Braveheart, how many of you have seen that? You remember the king, the real evil king, Edward Longshanks? Remember how evil he was, the way he would always talk about things? Oh, well, what do you think we should do? And remember he threw his son's boyfriend out the window. He was just mean and evil. But he was always calm. That's what Captain Davies sounded like. He was an evil man. And I just about had it with him, but I knew I had to keep my head. And then one day I was in his office, because we'd have a morning meeting all the time, and I had a report for him. My assistant manager was with me, and Annette was sitting there watching me, and Captain Davies was reading this thing, and he said, "This is terrible. This is a terrible report. Why would you give me this trash?" And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" He said, it's wrong. Everything's wrong about it." I said, "Well, specifically," he says, "Come over here. Come here." And so he made me go behind his desk. And he was sitting, that was his desk right there. He was sitting right there, a bald man. I had a lot of hair back then. And I remember standing behind him like that, and he was just telling me how stupid I was. My assistant manager's watching this, just totally embarrassed for me. And I remember, in my head, I could see this playing out. I can see it even right now. I raised up my fist like this. He didn't see it. And I was ready to cave in the side of his head. And the only thing that stopped me was that my son Dustin was I think he was only about 6 weeks old. Tiny little guy. And I thought, that poor kid's never going to get to know his dad because he'll be in jail. He'll say, "Who's that bald man on the little phone I have to talk to all the time?" "Mom, who's that man?" "Dustin, that's your dad." "Why is he in jail?" "Well, he killed a man." And I don't exaggerate, because I really did at that point want to kill that man. And after that experience, and of course I said, "Yes, sir, I'm sorry," and I went and fixed the paper, I thought, I've got to do something about that. That cannot be a wasted experience. So in my little mind map tool, I put Captain Davies in the middle there. The question is, what happened as a result of that? Well, by leveraging that, I started identifying a passion in my life, and that was to build great managers. I thought, I don't ever want somebody to experience what I had to go through with that man. My passion now is to develop the next great generation of managers. And because I wanted to do that, I thought, how can I have the whole world hear that? Well, it pushed me to actually change careers and focus on a new career. And not just focus on a new career, but do things to push me out of my comfort level, like going and speaking in front of people, and actually doing things like writing books, and doing interviews, and doing all kinds of different things to be able to realize it. It has made a marked difference, but that's just one aspect. One of the best parts of it is that I can actually go and I can encourage other people. And I can talk to people who are in the midst of this right now, and I can help them develop those skills. But what's even better than that is that companies pay me now to come in and fix people just like this guy. And I can tell people like that they're absolutely useless and should be fired, and I get paid to do it. It just doesn't get much better than that. So all of these things have been a remarkable experience for me simply because of that traumatic experience that I did not let get the best of me. And that's just one of several things I've gone through, and I won't bore you with all those details. For me, they make a huge difference. And what I'd like you to do is, one of your takeaways from here is to spend some time working on your model there. Now, the power statement we're going to have at the end of the morning here in just 35 minutes from now is, part of that is this particular statement. You know, you can add that back into it, because I really want you to reflect, and I want you to be thinking about what that actually is and what that means to you. The way you do it is, it happens right here in your handout. You have this little circle here. You put whatever that experience is. I don't know what that is. For some of it might be a personal issue, might be a relationship issue, might be a work issue, might be something big that has made a marked difference for you. If I was to do this with my wife, 3 years ago, she discovered she had a lump in her breast. And because she's gone through radical mastectomy and she's done all these things, and she's happy to tell you about it, she's been an inspiration for other women who have breast cancer. So what broke her down initially has given her a new voice, and she's been able to inspire other people. The question is, what is your story? And what can you use to be able to do that? You've learned some skills. You've got some life experiences that have made a big difference in your life. How do you bring those out? It's a key core component of your leadership.